Welcome to the battlefield of brains, where strategy meets chaos and every move burns with intensity. Watch grandmasters clash. Pieces fall. Piliin, and legends rise. Parham advances, pawn to c4, 2, staking early queenside territory and signaling intentions to challenge Wesley's classical central setup immediately. Wesley answers with f5, striking the center boldly and declaring he's ready to seize space and counter Parham's flank ambitions. Parham develops knight to c3, adding pressure to d5 and e4 while preparing flexible support for his growing central presence. Wesley brings knight to f6, reinforcing e4 pressure and preparing rapid development toward a dynamic central confrontation against Parham's setup. Parham pushes g3, preparing his fianchettoed bishop and forming a resilient kingside foundation against Wesley's early central thrust. Wesley develops bishop to b4, pinning the knight sharply and provoking structural weaknesses that could later benefit his active pieces. Parham fianchettos bishop to g2, strengthening the long diagonal and preparing dynamic counterplay against Wesley's ambitious central stance. Wesley castles kingside confidently, securing his monarch and freeing the rook for immediate pressure along the central files. Parham develops knight to f3, adding central control and preparing to confront Wesley's advanced pawn wedge directly and energetically. Wesley drives pawn to e4, striking boldly into White's formation and forcing Parham's knight to find a less comfortable defensive post. Parham relocates knight to d4, keeping central influence while preparing to undermine Wesley's advanced pawn from multiple tactical directions. Wesley responds with knight to checks, strengthening his grip on d4 and preparing increased central and queenside tension against Parham. Parham shifts knight to c2, rerouting defensively and preparing coordination with potential e3 or b4 expansions later in the battle. Wesley plays bxc3, capturing decisively to damage White's structure and seize valuable initiative by eliminating an important central defender. Parham recaptures with dxc3, accepting doubled pawns but gaining a semi-open file and potential dynamic counterplay toward central squares. Wesley plays h6, preventing back-rank threats and giving his king essential safety space for upcoming central complications. Parham castles, bringing his king to safety and connecting the rooks for future central resistance against Wesley's tightening pressure. Wesley activates rook to 8, lining heavy artillery against White's weakened center and preparing ambitious tactical expansion along the e-file. Parham develops knight to e3, improving coordination and eyeing strong squares that threaten to challenge Wesley's aggressive central construction. Wesley reinforces with 6, solidifying his center and preparing powerful piece activity as tensions slowly rise across the board. Parham thrusts f3, seeking to challenge the advanced e4 pawn and open central lines for counterplay against Wesley's king. Don't worry. Wesley jumps knight to f5, occupying a dominant outpost and intensifying pressure against Parham's trained kingside defenses. Parham supports his center with b3, stabilizing c4 and preparing to unleash his dark-squared bishop with renewed activity. Wesley repositions bishop to 7, conserving the piece and preparing harmonious coordination for future queenside or central assaults. Parham centralizes queen to c2, creating tactical harmony and iying weaknesses around Wesley's kingside structure with subtle threats. Wesley strikes with x3, sacrificing structural balance to rip open attacking lines and disturb White's comfortable kingside shelter. Parham recaptures with xf3, restoring balance while leaving open files that could escalate into tactical fireworks around both kings. Wesley develops queen to c8, setting sights on the c-file and preparing pressure toward b7 g2 diagonals as tension intensifies. Parham deploys bishop to d2, connecting rooks and preparing defensive resources against Wesley's swelling central control. Wesley swings bishop to h3, launching a probing attack near Parham's king and creating latent mating threats on sensitive dark squares. Parham brings rook from a1 to d2, challenging Wesley for central dominance and preparing possible counterplay through the d-file. Wesley captures on g2 with bx h2, eliminating the key fianchetto defender and exposing Parham's king to dangerous tactical possibilities. Parham recaptures with kx e2, bringing his king forward into risky territory but maintaining material balance and resisting collapse. Wesley plays keep7, connecting rooks and intensifying pressure toward the center while surveying new tactical targets around Parham's king. Parham retreats bishop to c1, reorganizing defensive lines and seeking stability amid Wesley's increasing initiative on key squares. Wesley lifts rook to e6, preparing a powerful rook swing toward the kingside, signaling imminent aggressive intentions against White. Parham jumps knight to 5, planting a fierce attacker near Wesley's king and challenging the coordination of his active minor pieces. Wesley counters with ng6, contesting key squares and reinforcing critical defensive points against Parham's encroaching kingside pieces. Parham activates rook with rf2, doubling potential pressure along central files and preparing defensive reinforcements if needed. Wesley completes coordination with re8, stacking heavy pieces on the e-file and signaling a looming central breakthrough against Parham. But Parham jumps knight to d4, boldly repositioning toward the center and challenging Wesley's tightening grip across critical dark squares. Wesley replies with re5, swinging the rook aggressively to escalate pressure and prepare potential infiltration against Parham's exposed king. Parham plays h3, creating luft and preventing back-rank tactics, while cautiously preparing defensive resources against Wesley's expanding initiative. Wesley answers with b6, strengthening his queenside and preparing future bishop activity, while denying Parham counterplay along dark squares. Parham advances f4, gaining queenside space and provoking structural weaknesses that might later serve as entry points for his rooks. Wesley strikes with df5, smashing the center open and attempting to unleash his active pieces directly toward Parham's vulnerable king. Parham responds with cx5, capturing in the center and momentarily slowing Wesley's pawn avalanche toward crucial attacking lanes. Wesley shifts rook to a5, sharpening threats against Parham's kingside and hinting at dangerous tactical ideas on weakened squares. Parham pushes h4, challenging the rook's intrusion and attempting to disrupt Wesley's coordination before the attack becomes overwhelming. Wesley captures on d5 with rx d5, sighting a central outpost and preparing to magnify pressure toward white's fractured defenses. Parham brings rook to d2, consolidating central defense and preparing to contest Wesley's active rook forces circling around his king. Wesley plays Nefiv, placing the knight on a powerful outpost and renewing threats toward f3, d3, and vulnerable central points. Parham expands with b4, creating queenside space and attempting to challenge Wesley's c-file domination through counter-pressure on key squares. Wesley responds with c5, launching queenside tension and opening fresh lines that complement his aggressive central positioning. Parham captures with bxc5, striking the advancing pawn and momentarily disrupting Wesley's structural integrity on the queenside. Wesley replies, bx5, iyong, restoring material balance and keeping files open for rook activity, aimed toward Parham's compromised position. Parham maneuvers, knight to e3, seeking improved placement and preparing to challenge Wesley's expanding influence across central files. Wesley advances pawn to c4, gaining territory and fixing weaknesses in Parham's queenside that may soon collapse under pressure. Parham repositions, knight to d4, centralizing forcefully and attempting to create counter-threats before Wesley's attack intensifies further. Wesley jumps knight to d3, planting a monstrous outpost deep in white's territory and threatening forks, discoveries, and imminent devastation. Pang. Parham captures with rx d3, eliminating the intrusive knight and momentarily diffusing Wesley's tactical threats around his sensitive center. Wesley recaptures with qx d3, seizing a dominant queen position and forcing Parham to confront a brutally active central invader. Parham plays qx d3, exchanging queens to relieve pressure in transition toward a survivable endgame against Wesley's active rooks. Wesley answers with qa4, grabbing material and expanding his advantage while maintaining strong initiative across the open queenside. Parham develops bishop to b2, activating his long-range piece and attempting to muster counterplay on exposed diagonals. Wesley moves rc5, doubling pressure on queenside targets and preparing to invade through newly accessible files and ranks. Parham leaps knight to 5, hisilwi, and in ashton shike, threatening tactics and seeking to disrupt Wesley's coordination before the endgame slips completely away. Wesley replies with q7, reinforcing central control and coordinating his pieces for decisive action against Parham's weakened structure. Parham exchanges queens with qsd7, simplifying the position and hoping reduced material will slow Wesley's attacking momentum. Wesley recaptures nsd7, keeping piece activity alive and maintaining firm control over vital central and queenside avenues. Parham plays n6, planting the knight aggressively and trying to stir practical threats in an increasingly difficult situation. Wesley activates rook with re6, preparing lateral shifts and reinforcing his determination to convert positional dominance into victory. Parham brings rook to d2, anchoring defensive coordination and seeking chances to counter pressure against Wesley's tightening clamp. Wesley advances knight to b6, threatening key squares and preparing to deepen control over the queenside in the unfolding endgame. Parham positions knight on e4, centralizing firmly and attempting to create attacking chances amid the increasingly sharp endgame landscape. Wesley advances rook to d5, challenging central files and setting the stage for decisive penetration against Parham's remaining weaknesses. Parham centralizes king to f2, improving endgame safety and stepping closer to supporting his active rook and knight. Wesley captures on d2 with rx d2, with rx d2, simplifying the position forcefully and marching confidently toward a winning technical endgame. Parham recaptures with nx d2, restoring material balance but leaving himself struggling against Wesley's superior activity. Wesley finishes with r6, activating his rook powerfully and cementing total control as he steers confidently toward the final victory. I'll end the video here. Please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep finding the best and newest videos to share with you. Thank you so much. And I wish you all happiness and good health.